we didn't really talk about like parenting. And this
Right.
group isn't like, okay, how do I discipline my child? It's not that, but how we can parent as entrepreneurs to get our kids to live the best life and not our life.
Mm-hmm.
My goal is not to say, my oldest daughter walked in like, Adriana, you need to come and be a speaker, author, and coach. She's not going to do that. That's not her passion. Why would I push that on her? Even with real estate, if they don't want to do single family rentals, that's fine. They're going to learn how to have assets work money for them. Like that's what they're going to learn. However they do that is on them. And how can I influence them, persuade them to see this so that they don't live the same struggles as me? I want my kids to struggle. They learn in the struggle, but can I make those struggles different and have them higher level problems?
Hello, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Today, I have the lovely Tabitha Thurl, founder of Legacy Wealth Project, and she's going to be sharing her insights with us today. And you're going to be learning a lot on the podcast. And I'm going to take it to her and just have her introduce herself, tell us a little bit about her business, what she's doing, what she's been about, where her journey started. I know that was a mouthful. Tabitha, thank you so much for coming on today.
Oh no, the pleasure's all mine, Casey. So I am Tabitha Thurl and I live in rural Nebraska. I married my high school sweetheart. We have 5 beautiful daughters, and we have created this program called the Legacy Wealth Project. And this was kind of a baby of ours because we have been investing in real estate for over 20 years. And we started when we were in college because we saw it as a way to build wealth and AKA retirement when we were older, because my husband was a farmer by trade. He was also building, construction, contracting. So he knew there was no retirement plan for him. He knew we were entrepreneurs. We weren't going to work for anybody. We weren't going to let the government take care of us when we were old. So we thought, okay, let's buy a house in college. And he lived in the basement and he rented out the top. And I actually lived in another property that was owned by his dad because his dad had rental properties. So he kind of had seen that. When he was about 15, his dad started buying some rental properties, real estate. And so he helped his dad renovate these homes. He saw like with tenants and that kind of stuff. So he saw the potential for income through properties. And so we were in college, he bought a couple houses, and it was just a way for us to invest our money instead of just save it. Because to be honest, we were in college. We didn't have any money to save. Like we were broke. We were not living the high life in college. I was a waitress and bartender working as many hours as I possibly could, getting my bachelor degree in marriage and family studies. And we just, we didn't know where life was going to take us. We loved real estate. I thought maybe I'd become an agent, a real estate agent. I wasn't sure. Like I said, I wanted to get a degree that was more of a counseling degree because I loved to help people, but I love to help marriages and families, because I knew marriages were the foundation of a family. And so I thought, man, if I can get this degree and help people, mediate or counsel or do whatever. And what I found out by getting my bachelor's degree was, first of all, the pay that I was going to get was not that great. Second of all, there wasn't a lot of positive results. I mean, I'll never forget the day I went to my advisor and I said, hey, like, okay, I'm graduating this year and, with honors, this is great. Like, what's the next step? Like should I get my master's? What should I get it in? And she, she was excited for me. She's like, yeah, Tab, that's awesome. Just to let you know, by the time that marriages come to us as a counselor, because she also counseled as well as was a professor, she said, marriages still fail. And I was like, what's the point? Like, why am I doing this? I was like, I'm not going to go to school and rake up like another $100,000 in student debt and spend my time and effort to like have mediocre results. That's not who I was. So I was like, okay, we're not going to do this. So me and my husband, we got married. I actually got introduced to fitness. That was always a hobby of mine, but I never like thought of it like a profession. So I got involved with fitness, and I was a fitness instructor, and I loved it. And I was just really focused on our family. But I
Right.
always in the back of my mind was like, how can I help financially? Like, I don't want to live like my parents did, which was very scarce, very paycheck to paycheck. I mean, not even paycheck to paycheck, like in
I
debt.
know. I know
And
that's what people say paycheck to paycheck is.
yeah, exactly. And the thing that I didn't realize then, that I want your audience to get right away, because we're only 4 minutes in, but if they jump off already, like, I want you to get a nugget. What I realized now that I wish I would have realized then was it wasn't how hard I worked or my
Mhm,
dad worked or my husband worked.
mhm.
And that's what I always thought. I just thought if you work hard, you will eventually get everything you want, like in like finances and money. And I was like, but the reality was my dad is like one of the hardest working men I know. Like,
Mhm,
he
mhm,
did what he thought he could to get us out of our financial situation. And we weren't in a financial situation because we were like living above our means. We were in a financial situation because my mom was sick. She had an
mhm,
autoimmune disease that the insurance companies, back then, this was early 90s, late 80s when she got diagnosed, they didn't know about this kind of stuff. So they thought it was like fake. So they weren't going to pay for a lot of her treatments. Well, these
wow.
treatments and the medication, it is priced way above what we could afford. And
Right.
so, and then things with my sister, she had like a mental breakdown. And if anybody knows anything about like psychiatric help, health insurance companies do not help with that.
Mhm.
And so these were things out of my dad's control. There are things that your audience is listening to that it's not because you went and bought a Ferrari and you can only afford a Honda. Like, it wasn't buying, all organic products. Like,
Mhm,
it was the fact that we were living the best. Like, my parents did provide a very, amazing life for us with what we had.
mhm.
But my dad worked and worked and worked and traded his time for money. And I never saw him. Like, by the time I was the youngest of five. So by the time I came around, my dad had been, I want to say cheated. I'll say cheated out of different jobs that should have propelled him up.
Mhm.
And so he had to kind of do what it took. I mean, he even traveled and lived out of our car
Wow.
during the week and worked at building up an ethanol plant
Wow.
because he needed to make the money and he was going to do whatever it took. So your audience, I know that people have the best. My dad had the best intentions. He didn't do that thinking I'm going to have a rift between me and my daughter by doing this. He was like, I got to put food on the table.
Correct. Correct.
I got to have clean clothes on my kids. Like, we can't be like, holes and looking
Right.
crazy, right? So he was going to do what it took. And I saw
Mhm,
that. So I saw the work ethic, which I love. And work ethic is different than working hard. Those
mhm,
are two
mhm.
different mindsets. So I was taught work ethic. Like, you do work. Like, nothing's going to be given to you, right?
Right.
And nothing's fair. Like, it wasn't fair. I remember crying so many nights, just so angry with these insurance companies and so angry with these doctors. And how can this cost so much? And just angry because
Mhm.
I didn't have an understanding of money and I didn't have an understanding of, what's fair, what's not fair, and all of those things. So when we got married, I was like, my kids are going to know my husband.
Wow.
He's not going to work his fingers to the bone. We're not trading time for dollars, right? But
Right.
that's all he was raised as well, because his dad was a farmer. So he traded a lot of time. And farmers and ranchers are some of the hardest working men. Trust me, I live in an environment where they are up with the sun and they don't come home till sundown. And in the summer, that's like 10 o'clock at night. The sun
Mhm.
gets up at 5:30 a.m. in the summer in Nebraska, and it doesn't go down till 10.
Oof.
So there is a lot of like trading time for money here. And
Mhm.
I didn't want that. But when we started, that's what we were doing. He was doing the best that he could to provide for our family. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, what's another way that we can earn money? What's another way that we can build our family, but be together with time?
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
just thought that after, like, I just was like, okay, I'm doing this fitness stuff and that's great, but that wasn't for money. Like, that was working for somebody else. I was just doing because I loved it. But it led
Mhm.
to an opportunity with a direct selling company that was like a nutritional company. So it was a good like fit for me.
Right, right.
And I was like, okay, so this was new for me. I was never like in sales or marketing or business or anything like that. I mean, I hated sales so much, Casey, that like when I'd go to get shoes at the the shoe store, I would like hide. I was like a ninja. And then I'd like no eye contact, like, okay, like, yep, just it's fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. It's just fine. Like, I'll just take these. I don't care if they fit or not. Like, I hated that process because it just made me feel so gross. So I knew nothing about it, but I didn't know anything about sales. I only knew the sleazy type, like the car salesmen that are like,
Yes.
whatever. So I just didn't have a good taste in my mouth. So when I came into this, though, I sought a way to help people. And I was like, okay, if I can help people, especially women, feel good about themselves and confident, like with weight loss and loving their body. But then I saw the element of earning money. And I was like, man, if I can help people in my community earn an extra $100 a month, $1,000 a month and beyond, like that's life-changing around here. So I got a taste of that. And then because I advanced in the company so fast, they were like, hey, we want you to take leadership. So they would, give us these great opportunities to be in front of these amazing leadership experts, and they'd give us content to consume. And I found the world of like personal development, like Tony Robbins and Brian Tracy and John Maxwell, Andy Andrews, like all these people I'd never been exposed to. And it was like the heavens had parted. I was like, ah!
Right.
Like, if, your listeners out here, like when you find something that feeds your soul, you're like, yes. But I didn't know anything. And I just stayed in my bubble. I stayed in my direct marketing bubble. I was like, okay, I'm just going to I loved it and I consumed it and I did it for my team. And I used that on my family, like being a leader for my family, being a leader for my team. But I was definitely not ready to have our own business. Even though my husband and I we still had the real estate. We were continuing buying houses. We were having babies. We had 3 by this time. And we had the farming business. So we were still entrepreneurs, but I just didn't look at it like I didn't want employees. I was like, I don't want to pay employee tax. Like, that's weird. Like, I don't know all that stuff. Like, I just was so scared of the unknown on the business side that I just stayed safe in my bubble, but we were still struggling. Wow. And the money that I got from the direct selling company, it allowed us a lot of opportunities. And we always brought our kids in on those. And what I mean by that is I worked, so I was a stay-at-home mom, work from home mom, however you want to say that. Okay. So my kids knew me, I was always around, but when I was doing the direct selling stuff, it would take me away in the evenings. So from the beginning, because they wanted mommy, I was like, okay, mommy's doing this so we can go to Disney World.
Right.
And so that brought the vision, because for me to say, oh, financially free or have all the money in the world, they
don't understand that.
No, they were 5, 3, and 1, or 5, it's like 6, they would have been 6, 4, and 1. And they didn't know that, but they knew Disney and they knew, okay, so if I help too, because then we'd let them hey, if you keep your room clean, if you help pick up your toys, then you're going to earn money. And if we get this amount, then you get those fun Disney mini ears that you always wanted. And then that experience was up a notch, because then they're going to work at home and do the things that help me out, pick up their toys, do that stuff. And then when we got to Disney, they were so excited to go look for those ears because they earned the money.
Right.
And they were we'd go to Epcot, and my oldest daughter picked hers out right away. That's her. She picked it out. She got it. My second daughter was I got to see all of them. Out of all the parks. And if anybody's been to Disney, they have 700. I don't know. They have so many ears. I'm so I kind of had to talk her off the ledge. I believe these are the ones that you really want. But I say that because your audience, we do things because we want to do it for the family. But when we bring the kids into their level and bring little things like that, I mean, what were the ears? $20? Not a lot of money. But for us, just going to Disney was it. Like,
Mhm.
we didn't buy food at Disney. We put like lunches in backpacks. We weren't going to spend anything else. We got like the cheapest economy van that you possibly can. We stayed at my in-laws had a condo there. We weren't going to spend any extra money. So even just that little bit, I got a taste of what the financial freedom could do.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
it wasn't just me giving the kids the ears. It
Mhm.
was I invested in them just a little bit of like what they could earn for that. And I got
Mhm.
a taste of that. And I'm like, I want to do more of that as our kids get older. And
Right.
then like I want to teach other people how to do that. So that was kind of like a seed for me. And that was clear back. I mean, that was like 8 years ago. And so
Wow.
along the way, God has just gently nudged me to like go on my own. I'll never forget sitting at one of the big conferences that like our direct selling company and hearing the story of the founder. And I'm amazed at what he created. And God kept saying, but that's his dream.
Mm. Okay.
And I was like, yep, it is. Like, what are you saying here? And because he was saying to me, like, that's his dream and it's great, but that's not your dream.
Mhm.
This was a stepping stone. It's time to leap.
Mhm.
And I didn't do it right away. And I'll be honest, I felt like a lion in a birdcage. I just felt like so many times I would just cry
Wow.
because I'm like, why am I not advancing in this company? Why am I not reaching these goals? It's because God knew if I stayed there, I
Right.
would not go on my own
And do
to the
what you were supposed to. Mhm.
exactly. So it was hard because there were things in that company that I loved and I just wanted them so bad and I just wasn't getting them.
Right.
And I am an achiever. So I'm like, ugh, what's happening? So finally in 2018, I said, okay, God, I surrender, whatever is. So I went out on my own, found a coach. It was the first time I ever paid $5,000 for a coaching program. And I about wet my pants. Like, to be honest, like I was just like turmoil because I was like, now I have skin in the game.
Right.
Like the other one, I had recouped my money. I'd made money. Like there was no skin in the game. Here, I was investing in something that may or may not come out.
Mhm.
And so what it did though is it lit the fire and it got me to help a lot of women with fitness. But very quickly, God was like, you're not supposed to stay here.
Wow.
Fitness has always been my not easy, but like I've enjoyed it so much. It was just easy for me to transition into that. Like, of course. And I love talking about it and I love helping people get fit and I love the nutrition aspect of it. But he was like, nope, you need to transition to personal development.
Wow.
And so I did, like, really within 8 months, probably just like switched it over and like did a workshop with women and just it blew their eyebrows off. Like they were so moved by the program that they were just like, okay, this is awesome. And so that led to some one-on-one coaching, which was phenomenal and it was great, but I didn't want to do one-on-one coaching. I knew I wanted to do some sort of
One
group.
and many. Mhm.
And, in the meantime, I didn't know a lot about sales and marketing. So I'm like, okay, probably what a lot of other entrepreneurs do. Like I was like, hey, I'm going to learn everything about sales and marketing,
Yeah.
right? Instead of finding the who, I lived in scarcity. So I was like, I can't hire them. So I
Mhm.
will just ingest all of this. Well,
Ooh.
that slowed my growth
Ooh.
because I'm still a mom, right? Like I'm still a mom. I have 3 babies. I still help manage my husband. If anybody has a husband who's an entrepreneur,
Mhm.
that's a full-time job. Like,
Mhm.
and just being a wife in that. And then we were buying rental property, still continuing to grow with that. We were property managing and renovating everything ourselves. So,
So
yeah,
you had a full time.
full time. And then God's like, here, add one more thing, right? So it slowed down and I don't like that. I'm impatient. So I thought, okay, this must not be what I'm supposed to do. I mean, you live, you learn. And honestly, I look back, I'm like, I don't know why I just didn't keep doing more of those workshops. Like they loved the workshops, like they
Right.
did, but I didn't. I was like, oh, I'm supposed to do this. I mean, we just all learn as entrepreneurs, like
Oh,
whatever, right? Like
yep.
I'm just being honest. Is that okay? I'm not honest here. Like I can just like be the truth here. Like
Laid out,
I
because
just
I mean they need to know that this is the entrepreneurial journey. Like
yes.
it's a journey. It's as someone said, it's a giant experimentation. Like we're
Exactly.
experimenting
I
because
felt
we
like
don't
a
know.
good experiment.
Mhm.
Yes, it did. So as I'm doing this, I do have to preface, as I'm doing this, every night that I tuck my daughters in, I have 3 daughters at this time. 2018, they would have been 9, 6, or 9, 7, and 4. And so at this time, they had been for probably 3 or 4 years, every night. I'm not exaggerating. You ask my husband, like Bible, like every night, every day. God, can you please let mommy have another baby?
Oh,
Like prayed it over me. And I was like, they kept saying, but God, you can make mommy have a baby. Like, even if she doesn't want one, like you can make it happen. Like they were just like relentless
wow.
for probably 3 or 4 years. And I was like, I even talked to my mentor about this. I said, oh, my kids are like, and we were on the fence. We always thought we'd have 4, but like my third one is very much like me, and she's spirited and she's stubborn. And the toddler years were hard, and I wasn't ready to have another one. So I went to my mentor and I said, hey, like, my kids are wanting this. And she's like, of course they do. They're girls. Girls always want babies. They love babies, like maybe you're supposed to birth this business and develop this business. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. Just went about my day, but they just were relentless. And they weren't annoying about it. They were literally like going to God, like what they were supposed to do. And they were like, we really want you to have this baby. And sometimes I'd get annoyed with it. And I think I was annoyed with it because I knew it was probably something I should do, and I just didn't know how I was going to do it because I
Wow.
had nothing. Like, I mean, my capacity was full and I wanted to build this business.
Right.
And I was like, how can I do this with a baby? Like, I can't even do this when my kids are in like school. Like, what's
Mhm.
happening? And so finally, I just told my husband, I said, I'm going to surrender. Like, we weren't doing anything to really prevent it, but we were aware. Like,
Right.
I'm very aware of my body. So I said, all right, God, I surrender. You ultimately have say. Like, my path. If I'm supposed to have another baby, you're going to give me another baby. If I'm not, you're not. Like, I'm not going to actively pursue this, but I'm
Right.
not going to actively not. Within 2 months, I was pregnant.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, I guess that's the answer, and I'm a believer. So God was very gentle with me, because I think if I would have gotten pregnant even a year earlier, because I think about that, like, oh, I should have just done it sooner. I didn't have the capacity. There's a lot of people in my life and a lot of wisdom poured into me from in that time frame that I
Right.
needed to have it. And then when we had Ivy, our fourth, into like almost instantly in my spirit while I was still in the hospital, God was like, she needs a friend. Like, you can't have a 6-year gap
Right.
and
Right. Right.
expect
Right. Right. Right.
her
Right. Right.
to
Right.
have,
Right.
that same kind of sisterly friendship that the other ones have. So we had, and I said, okay, God, let this not be my hormones. Cause women, can we attest, like when we're like, they're cute, the hormones are growing crazy. Like, I don't know. I
Totally.
said, I don't want it to be a hormone thing. I was like, God, you speak to my husband, because you can talk to him. Like, you put it in his spirit. And if he's a yes, like an instant yes, we'll have baby number 5. But if he's like, are you sure? Like, if there's any
Right.
uncertainty at all,
Right.
we're not doing this. Like, then it's just
Mhm.
my hormones and like whatever. And I remember we were sitting on the bed and I was nursing Ivy, and I said, I think I want another one. And I'll never forget this. He said, what's one more?
I mean, I guess he's like, well, we're here. We're at 4.
And if you guys knew my husband, that is not him. He is very much like a very like quiet soul. He really leads that kind of up to me, because he's like, you have to carry the baby. You take a
Right.
brunt of it when they come home. Like, he really leaves. I mean, he would have 8 kids. Like, he loves kids. He's an amazing father, but he knows like it takes a toll on my body. He knew I was trying to do this business thing.
Right.
And for him to say it, I knew it was God. Like, I just knew
Wow.
it. And so I'm like, okay. So within like 4 or 5 months, we got pregnant with our youngest. And I just did the steps of the business when I could. And I just gave myself grace.
Mhm.
And it
Ooh.
fluctuated from who am I supposed to serve to one-on-one coaching to should I do an agency? Like there was a lot, but I co-authored a book in that time. I took time to join different masterminds to help fuel my mind so that I knew when I was ready, when God was like, go, I
Mhm,
would be ready. I
mhm,
wouldn't be like, oh, well, I need to figure this out. Like I surrounded myself with up level thinkers and people that were earning more money than me,
mhm.
skill sets that were higher than mine. I got
You come out
uncomfortable
of the
because I could.
scarcity. Mhm.
And that's what we did. And so all of that for the last 24 minutes, I'm sorry for that. I mean, I didn't, yeah, led us to this where we're at today because I wasn't sure exactly my journey, who I was supposed to serve. I knew I was supposed to be a coach. I had been coaching people in fitness, nutrition. I mean, people even came to me for like addictions, which I was not qualified for. And I told them that. I'm like, I have no like actual school background other than I lived it with my sister because my
Mhm,
sister was an addict. And I said, I
mhm,
can give you my own experiential wisdom, but this is not like psychological. Like I do not have that. And they didn't care because I was helping them in the skill set that I had. So I felt good about that. But they would come to me for relationships, for identity issues, all of those things. But I still have this heart to help families. Like I
mhm,
want, like I just, my heart is in families because I feel like families can change the world when you unite families. And I see it so much today where families are disconnected
mhm,
and we're
mhm,
so busy, and we will invest in our kids' dreams. Like we will take them to all these practices after school and we will invest all this weekends doing the tournaments and the ball games and all this stuff, but we won't sit with them and play a board game anymore. Or we
Ooh.
won't sit with them and dream and
Mhm,
say, what do you want? What mini ears do you want on our next trip? Like,
mhm,
what is it? And even us, like, we get caught up in this and we live
mhm,
a pretty laid back life compared to some because of our, like, where we live. But we just, this isn't like a dig on parents. This is the culture we live in. Like,
mhm,
if you don't
mhm,
go, you get run over.
mhm,
And if you are an entrepreneur and you're building your wealth, it's hard to bring your kids in because you only have so many hours in a day.
mhm.
And so it's like, how can you marry those two? And
And
how
I have
can,
to ask you, how are you marrying that? Because I mean, just hearing the story, I know, like, how you're saying, okay, we're at 5 kids.
yep, yep.
We have
So,
the properties, the
yep,
property management,
yep.
the consulting, like,
So this is where this project came in. So we've done the rental thing. And for years I've told my husband like we have got to outsource the property management stuff because that's what
mhm,
takes us away the most.
mhm,
We had started hiring out help as far as like people like plumbers and things to do. Like my husband still fixes a lot of stuff because he does that, but like that has even been outsourced. So we
mhm,
finally were like, okay, we're doing this. One thing we saw every convention that we'd go to, whether that was anything, we would tell people what we did. We'd say, yeah, we own rental properties. And then everybody would say, I'm not kidding, probably 95% of people would be like, yeah, I've always wanted to do that.
mm, full
And I'm like,
stop.
why haven't you?
Yep.
And a lot of times it's money, uncertainty. I don't know what's the mark, a lot of backtracking. So I was like, if we could help families buy their first income property and beyond, because we really want them to grow beyond that, but you have to take the first bite. So
Right.
buy your first property. So that's building wealth because when you're
Mhm,
building income in a business, that's different than wealth.
mhm,
Money in, money out, cash flow in a business is different than building wealth. Okay.
mhm,
And that was one thing we did understand from the beginning. So, how can we build wealth creation, meaning assets that are going to work for you? They create little money babies. I mean, I can do a whole podcast on this, like money babies for you and for legacies to come. But how do you do that and teach your kids? So our kids always like they would come with us on projects. They would come and renovate, they'd paint, they'd pull carpet, they'd nail stuff. Like we taught our kids like a lot of stuff with the renovation part of it. The design aspect, they're very aesthetic. They're like, "Oh yeah," and they do everything in white like me, but I'm like, "That's not going to go." So like they would be brought in on it, or we'd go and we'd say like, "Oh, we got to go clean out a house. You guys have to we have a babysitter coming, but we're going to go clean out this rental property. And then, of course, we do a lot of rentals with college students. So they leave so much stuff. And most of it's trash. But
Right.
sometimes you get like a bike that's used like a half a dozen times, or like a cool, cute lamp,
Right.
that some girl thought was perfect, but she couldn't fit in a car. And so it left. So we would bring
Wow.
home these treasures. And so the girls would be so excited to like look at these treasures, or they'd come to the house and they'd help us load up all the junk. And then they got to keep whatever things that they wanted, as long as it was sanitary, not gross. And so we brought them in and we would
Mhm.
tell them, like, people pay us to live in our house. This is what we do. So we were building their character and
Mhm.
teaching these little things, not just about like, you have to work hard, trade time for money. We were saying we're investing in people who can't afford a home. They come to us and they get to live with us, and we do this. And, we teach them too, like, hey, they didn't treat this house very well.
Right.
Is that how you would treat somebody else's house? And they'd be like, no, and so we would teach them that too. Like, they would see if tenants wouldn't treat it well, like,
Mhm.
oh, well, that was rude. Why would they do that? So we were teaching these principles. We want to teach that to other families. So how you can do that, and still teaching them, like, you can have a property manager. You don't have to do it all yourself, but you can still
Right.
bring your kids in to see the vision. Go scout the neighborhood, see if there's for sale signs, go on Zillow together and be like, ooh, would this house be cute? Bring them in when the real estate agent shows the house.
Mhm.
When
Mhm.
you're looking at a property manager, bring your kid in. If they're old enough, show them, say, hey, we're hiring somebody. This is the process of having an employee work for you, so I can have more time with you. Right.
So
So I'm teaching them that.
let me ask you, do you think that it was having some of those mentors and coaches and masterminds that you went to that gave you the right mindset, that got rid of like the scarcity mindset?
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
It's if I wouldn't have forced myself and honestly paid to be in the room. I
Mhm.
mean, paid I told you guys that, like, when I first paid for my coaching program was $5,000 and I about
Mhm.
wet my pants, right? So the first time I ever had to pay 5 figures for a coaching program, and upper five figures to be in the room, I was like, oh my gosh. But every time it brought me to another level. It
Ooh.
broke through that mindset to say, up your prices, don't be afraid, go after it, do this thing. I didn't think I was qualified. I still am like, am I qualified to teach people about real estate? I'm not an agent. I didn't go to school. I still look up the terms sometimes if I don't know. I'm like, what's this? Oh yeah, we do that. But like, I don't, the lingo, I'm a laid back chick. Like, I just like fun words. I don't like financial literacy and like escrow and sub two and all this stuff. I'm like, let's make money babies and let's have like financial rainbows. Like, I want, like, I like fun words. And so sometimes, I'm not going to be everybody's cup of tea, but the ones that I do, the ones
Mhm.
that are attracted to my husband, like, we've been together since I was 15.
Mhm.
So 24 years.
Mhm.
There's a lot that has happened in that time frame. And this was not like an arranged marriage, some weird cult thing
Right.
that like people, we have the internet in Nebraska, everybody. Like, I promise, like, we have water come out of the faucets. Like, we are not Amish. Like, we are very much but the thing that makes us different is, like, I want to bring joy to families
Right.
where it's a topic that can be a struggle bus, like
Mhm.
money, scarcity, how much
Mhm.
things cost, is it expensive, money doesn't grow
Mhm.
on trees, all these things that can have this negative thing. Or you have the flip side, because we've created this project, and I, on the backside of this, have the Family Legacy Project, where I help wealthy entrepreneurs who are earning 7, 8, 9 figures, and they just want time back with their kids. They want the
Wow.
wealth to be kept. So they've built it, but like, they need the understanding of how to keep it, meaning
Mhm.
giving their kids the characteristics that it takes for their kids to keep the wealth and grow it for generations. So
Wow.
you have
Wow.
the flip, you have both sides of the pendulum, because
Right.
someone who's still trying to create the wealth needs to know how to create it, but then
Right.
you need to learn how to keep it so that your
Mhm.
kids have the characteristic foundation or success principles, the characteristics to keep it and grow it. So
And
like building making the houses, having assets, different income properties. They don't have to be houses, commercial, storage units, apartment buildings, all of those things, but doing it in a way that's like fun and receptive for them,
Mm-hmm.
not scarce or, not scary, anxiety ridden, like, oh, that's
Right.
an adult. When I'm an adult, then I'm going to do that.
Right. Right.
We can make it fun now. Like,
Right.
my daughter wants Converse shoes. I'm like, okay, well, your birthday's in August, so I can buy
Mhm.
them for you then. But if you want them now, start earning money. What
Right.
are some creative ways? They get to earn money by reading books that help their mind. We have chores, physical
Mhm.
labor, because they can learn that. They
Mhm.
have jobs that they can outsource to other people. They get the money and they can pay someone else. Like, we teach them all of those little things because it's like there's different ways to make money. They can sell stuff online and they get
But
that
here's the
money.
thing, that whole premise of not everybody has that, right? And not
Right.
everybody understands that
Yes.
you can make money, kids can make money. I mean, the adults, the whole perspective of making money and building a legacy, they're two completely
Mhm.
different things, right?
Yep.
How are you bridging the gap for them?
So with the Legacy Wealth Project, we're bridging the gap because we're going to entrepreneurs, business owners, people who, earn the higher six figures, who are like, I have built some income.
Right.
Of course, like, they're not exactly where they want to be, even maybe seven-figure entrepreneurs. Usually by the time an entrepreneur is seven figures, they have realized that um, they need to invest in assets. Like, most
Hmm.
of the time, most seven-figure entrepreneurs have had assets.
Right.
It's kind of that gap between that mid six to seven figures where people are like, I have a little extra,
Hmm.
but like, I'm not sure what to do. So we help
Okay.
them make that decision of buying an income property. And we do it like really the simplest, safest way, which is a single family home, to just get your feet wet. Don't do any
Right.
crazy Airbnb, syndication, like all that stuff. You can do that, but there's a lot more red tape. And when you're first getting started, unless you have somebody that you're going to hand it off to right away and you just
Hmm.
literally are the check, it can be overwhelming. So we help them, like, just kind of, it's a group setting. So it's like we do, our vision is to do like weekly trainings to just cut through the noise of all the lingo and all
Hmm.
the fear of
Hmm.
like, I don't know how I'm going to get the down payment. Even if I am earning that, like, that goes back into my business, or,
Right.
for family vacation, I don't know how I could get $20,000. Like, so we show them that. We bring in experts for like tax strategies so that how they can save on taxes to help for that, down payment for that property. Our
Hmm.
goal is from the time they get into our program, within 90 days, to have at least in contract their first income property. Like,
Okay.
show them a way, like, hey, speed right now. Like, we want you to have that property because ultimately we want to show you how to get property number 2, 3,
Hmm.
4, 5, and doing that. And you got to have that first taste for, that. And then bringing families together, like in a community setting where we
Hmm.
say, like, what's your biggest struggle being an entrepreneur and a parent? How would you like it if we did a kid mastermind where we bring your kids in and
Wow.
they dream a little and they mastermind together, and maybe they build relationships where they form a business, and maybe we do a game or a competition where we can match the kids up and they can go on Zoom together and create a
Oh,
business, and then they
I like
present
that.
it. Yeah. So, like, just different activities where it gets kids excited to, do that. And then maybe we even do a fun, like, Monopoly, but we give them money and they have to actually find a property where they're at. And like, what would they do? How would they go about it? And like, and if it's real time and their parents want to go for it, great. But even just getting the kids excited about it, because
Hmm.
let's face it, like, kids know the internet almost better than us, and they can
Yes.
go on Zillow and they can look at the property and they can see, they can do
Hmm.
a calculator, they can figure
Hmm.
it out. And so
Hmm.
just giving them that freedom and letting them know that that's fun, and
Hmm.
that, like, there's money opportunities out there, and getting them to speak eloquently. And how would you write the email to the buyer, or would you call them? What would you say? And like, teaching them those things, that's really a vision of mine, to get them, um, not only the education and the financial literacy, but like, make it fun,
Right.
because nobody really wants to save. And I think you need to save enough to keep your lights on for about 30 to 60 days, but you should
Hmm.
be investing. You
Hmm.
can have assets that you can liquidate. And I mean, if you have good financial relationships with people and you have a business that's making money, you can always make more money. But you
Mm-hmm.
need money working for you to make money babies. And the
Right.
faster they can do that and you get out of the scarcity mindset, the
Mm-hmm.
better. If we can teach our kids that,
Mm-hmm.
if you can teach our kids that at a level when they're young,
Mm-hmm.
then man, imagine the adults we're going to have for abundant thinking. And then we teach our kids how to tithe, if that's, a religious
Right.
belief they have. And then we teach them how above that, how we give and philanthropy. And maybe they figure out a charity that they want to give to in that,
Mm-hmm.
and they're talking to other peers who are doing it and like-minded. Because like I told you before, if I didn't have the like-minded people around me,
Mm-hmm.
I would not have grown the way that I did.
Mm-hmm.
Not for 1 minute.
If you're talking to someone now that's listening, right, that is in the they're just starting their journey, right?
Mhm.
They have their business, it's growing. What advice would you give them? Like, what's the next step beyond? So you have the business, you formed it, it's growing,
Yep.
right? It may not be where you want it to be, right? But
Right.
what would you suggest?
Well, join our group. Of course. Join our group. But I mean, in seriousness, because I do know that like a lot of people want to build wealth and they don't take the jump. We
Okay.
push you out of the nest, right? So because I'd say you need assets. Like
Mm-hmm.
if you have a business and if you have not invested in any sort of income assets, and you can even do that with like RVs,
Right.
like buy an RV and rent it out during the year. That's an
Right.
asset because it's money working for you, right? So like there's smaller purchases you can make, but there's money out there for you to buy a single family home, even a 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's possible for you to
Mm-hmm.
do that. You need an asset and you need to have done it yesterday. So you need to be around like-minded people, but you need to have it be in a position that's moving the needle.
Right.
That's the great thing about our group is like we want you to buy that first property. That's moving the needle because you're building that asset. And okay, imagine a group full of entrepreneurs. Of course, we're going to like our goal is to have people like giving even tips about like what's working for their business or what's
Mm-hmm.
not working for their business, what's
Mm-hmm.
working for their family, what's not
Mm-hmm.
working for their family. It being a forum where
Mm-hmm.
you can go, because that was one thing. I was in a lot of rooms and the conversations that took apart afterwards or that I made were the best because in it, we didn't really talk about like parenting. And this
Right.
group isn't like, okay, how do I discipline my child? It's not that, but how we can parent as entrepreneurs to get our kids to live the best life and not our life.
Mm-hmm.
My goal is not to say, my oldest daughter walked in like, Adriana, you need to come and be a speaker, author, and coach. She's not going to do that. That's not her passion. Why would I push that on her? Even with real estate, if they don't want to do single family rentals, that's fine. They're going to learn how to have assets work money for them. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's what they're going to learn. However, they do that is on them. And how can I influence them, persuade them
Mm-hmm.
to see this so that they don't live the same struggles as me? I want my kids to struggle. They
Mm-hmm.
learn in the struggle, but can I make those struggles different and have them
Right.
higher level problems?
Right. Right.
So
Why should
that's
they have the same? I agree with you. Right.
exactly. So, I mean, God's going to put them through struggle. Of course, that's how they grow. That's how they build character.
Mm-hmm.
But can I show it at a higher level where they can give back and have a bigger impact and live their dreams, but still learning and growing their character? Absolutely, you can do that. You don't have to suffer
Right.
in the trenches of poverty
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
learn that.
Mm-hmm.
And so to answer your question, you have to get to assets. Like you need to buy an income property, whatever that looks like for you. And if you're scared and you're like, I don't know this stuff, join a program.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, it's very simplistic. It's very efficient. Like you can go in there and we're doing our soft launch this month. So by the time your listeners, I don't know when this is going to air, but it's like, go in there and take the steps. And the thing too is like, as the group is small, I am more likely to consult people and be, because I just love to help people. And I'm always told, like, you know, you need to take about, I'm gonna help you. Like if you have a property and you want to know like our opinion, like if we were to buy it, or, you know, just that how you can negotiate the price or the down payment or how you can find the money, we're going to go in there and I'm going to help you because I want that for you. You
Mhm.
know, as it grows, yes, we'll probably have to hire coaches and managers to have, because I want people that come in that group to have their questions answered, because it's a fear thing.
Right.
It's a
Right.
fear of building that. And then what do you do beyond that? You've
Mhm.
got that property. Then like, how can you keep it? Well, it's all about what you teach your kids.
Mhm.
And I'm not here to say like I'm the best parent or the best teacher of that. I'm just going to share with you what has worked for us and
Mhm.
what has worked for other families. There
Mhm.
are some big name families that have done it right in certain areas, where let's just model that
Right.
and
Right.
take our own principles and our family spin on it. And there's just little things that we can do that's going to give us back time with our kids,
Mhm.
and realize that time is like way more important than money.
Mhm.
And then let's stop living in scarcity and saying, oh, I can't pay that check every month because actually I'm getting 10x on my return because my experience with my kids is 10 times better than it's ever been. And
Wow.
you're putting seeds in your kids that, can you really put a price point? Like if I said, okay, you have to pay me $1 million, but it's going to give you the best type of um there's no guarantees when it comes to kids. We all know that, but like
Right.
an assurance, a certainty, a foundation, kind of
Right.
like that spiritual foundation, right? Like if
Mhm.
we can give those characters and then we just keep doing those and
Mhm.
trusting the process along the way and looking at our kids and saying, are they more joyful? Do they have less anxiety? Are they happier to see me? Like, are they excited
Wow.
for family meetings? That's how you measure it.
Mhm.
And then your business is going to grow because your mind is clear of that. So you can focus on your business,
Mhm.
because your mind is your business, and this the bottleneck of it is you. So if you can free your mind of that and know like, hey, we're doing
Mhm.
a mastermind in the Legacy Well Project tonight. So we're all going to get together and have that. So I don't have to think about, are my kids okay? And
Right.
for me, that's huge, because it's like that's taken off my plate. Because that's, as a parent and an entrepreneurial parent, like that is a constant worry in my brain, a concern. Like,
Mhm.
are my kids being taught the things they need to really live this life in prosperity and abundance and joy and kindness and
Mhm.
patience and all of those things?
Mhm.
But if I know we have like this set time
Mhm.
and they're doing that, man,
Mhm.
that just like takes it off my plate.
And I just want to bring this point across, that as entrepreneurs, sometimes because you're working all the time, sometimes your kids do resent it. And
Yeah.
then grow up with that mindset like, I don't want to be an entrepreneur because I
Yep.
saw my mom be an entrepreneur or my dad be an entrepreneur. And because they were an entrepreneur, they were never home. So if I
Yep.
get a regular job, a regular 9 to 5, then I'll be home with my kids. So it is really about creating that mindset for the kids to say, hey,
Yes.
listen, it's a good thing. Look how
Yes.
much fun it was. Look at
Yep.
what we created. I'm
Yep.
so happy and eager to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. And it took work. Like it's going to be work ethic. But
Mm-hmm.
instead of looking at it like, I just almost laugh at people like, I work hard, I hustle, I work hard, I work hard, I work hard. And I'm glad that you work hard, but work should be work. Whether, I mean, work in and of its sense is the word. You don't really need to put hard next to it. When you
Right.
work at something, there's effort,
Right.
right? How do you measure that? It's the results after it. There's
Mm-hmm.
no harder working. I think Alex Hermosi said this. He was like, you can't measure how hard somebody works. Like, there's no, like, how do you measure it? My dad, if I really measure, he worked like 16, 17 hours a day. Sometimes my husband
Mm-hmm.
does that. Like, what physical work? Yes. But then you
Right.
look at someone like a Russell Brunson, or, even Alex Hermosi, where they worked their mind to get to where they are. So did they work harder, or did my dad work harder? What were the
Mm-hmm.
results? What was the output of that?
Wow.
So it's like what you're putting in and out. So I get why our culture says that, because it's like a honor. Like, I work hard. Like, I'm a hard worker. No, you had work ethic,
Mm-hmm.
which is
Mm-hmm.
great. Kids need work ethic. Like, they need
Mm-hmm.
to know that. But to just say work harder, it's kind of an oxymoron, because it's
Mm-hmm.
like, you know, it, you just worked. You did.
Right.
You did the work.
You
And
did the
what was
work.
the output? Was the output the results you wanted? If it wasn't, then we need to tweak the work.
Mm-hmm.
That,
Mm-hmm.
you know, what that means for that, right? So like that's a perspective too that you have to teach your kids. And that's hard because our world is very much hustle, grind, get up at 4 a.m., don't sleep, and you give up all the things you love, because if you do something you like, then you're just gonna be fat and lazy and, you
Mm-hmm.
know, a moocher, whatever. And it's like, no, like God put us on here to build our character. He did that. We do that through work. Even when Adam had everything, God said you are the ruler over everything. You have given everything freely. He didn't need money. He had everything. He still worked the land.
Mm-hmm.
Like chew on that for a minute. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
going to take a minute for the audience to really think about. He
Mm-hmm.
was giving everything freely, did not have to pay for anything, and he still worked. So we're meant to work. It builds our character. That's why
Mm-hmm.
he's like, you need to work. You need to build your character. You need to figure out what this is, right? And soon we figured out, like, okay, we can't do it without him. So, like, when we do that, we're building our character. That's what we need to do in our kids. Instead of just more lessons, more sports, more activities, more time, more, the little things of the shift in the mind, which is the most important thing, we need to be planting in them right now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if you're public school, I don't care if you're private school. This is not a debate on the school system. This
Mm-hmm.
is, as parents, what I can do, what I can control for them, and
Mm-hmm.
then allowing it as a seed and me not taking responsibility for how they respond to it. I just plant the seed and I nurture it and I watch it grow, but
Mm-hmm.
loving them and giving them grace and forgiveness along the way and saying, okay. And that's really what I want to cultivate for families, and
Mm-hmm.
not my expectation and not what I wanted and what I wish I would have had. And oh, if I would have had this opportunity, and the language in our house, the word expensive is like a bad word in our house. Like if
Mm-hmm.
somebody says expensive, like I cut them off because I'm like, nothing's expensive. You have to compare it to what? Like
Mm-hmm.
compare it to what? It is more than what we can afford right now, or it's more than I want to spend on that thing because the result of that thing is not going to give me the joy that I wanted.
Mm.
So looking at things all as relative and
Mm-hmm.
taking that emotional sting out of it. Because too
Mm.
much, like, oh, everything's so expensive and oh my gosh, it costs so much. If you had $1 million, would it cost that much?
Right. 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 Man, I love everything you brought to the table today. I love the conversation we've had. It's been phenomenal.
Thank you.
Phenomenal. How can they reach you? What's the best way for them, for our audience, to get in touch with you?
So hopefully you'll put links to this, but keeplegacywealth.com has a free resource. So if you're someone who's like, Tab, I'm not ready to join the group. I get it. Like in due time. There's a free resource on there, like the 5 things that you need to when you're looking for an income property. Free resource for everybody. And then, but also on there is a link for the school group. So you can just go right in. And as the school group grows, we're putting more courses in there, and as we see people, we're helping them like individually, especially as it grows as a baby. And then there'll be more courses and different opportunities for people to meet, and
I
Q&A,
love
like
that.
live Q&A, because I'm a
Right.
big like, hey, let's do it in real time, because I don't want you to wait anymore. Otherwise I would have just done a course, but I
Right.
didn't want to sell a course. I wanted like live action, so that those are all be in the school group. Tabthorell.com is my actual website, but if anything resonates with you here, just take the leap. Here's the thing, it's month to month. So do it for 1 month. The value you'd get for 1 month, you'd honestly probably pay 3 to 4 times for a course that would sit in your inbox. Like
Mm-hmm.
do a month, see if you like it. Like even like I always said 2 months, because if you're going to cancel, give us 30 days, right? So like even 2 months, you would pay 2 to 3 times for a basic course
Mm-hmm.
on this topic. And here you're going to get real time, real consulting, get you pushing out of the ledge, building connections. Like, why not? There's no like, hey, you're going to buy for the year. Like, just do it and join us and build your assets and be the difference makers. Like, truly live that life. Be the family that's going to change your legacy. If you look back, this was one of the things that and I'll end with this. Another reason why it was so important for me and my husband, because we knew the great things about our family that we loved. Because let me tell you this, like, I have amazing parents. There were definitely things that I wish were different, but if they were, then I wouldn't be who I was today. So I'm so grateful for my siblings and my family, and my husband is the same. But there are things that we were like, no more. We cut off this from our family legacy. We saw it from generations. I saw men literally working themselves to exhaustion, heart attacks, like drinking themselves to death because of this. I said, no more. My daughters will have a father that is present. And if you have believers in here, like, I got goosebumps because I rebuked it. And if you have it too, then you have to make the difference and you have to see it. And you have to surround yourself with those people and you have to take a stand. And it might not happen in 30 days, 90 days, whatever. Like, if you're not satisfied with the group, I'm happy to give your money back because I want the difference for you and for your family, because we have too many opportunities in America to sit idle. The enemy wants you to sit idle and be like, oh, but somebody needs braces, and oh, $20,000 for a down payment. We could do a lot with that, blah, 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 blah. No, like, you put your stake in the ground and say, like, I am changing my family right here and right now. And that was so important for me for my husband and for our future kids, because I was like, they will not live that way where all they wanted was their dad home or their mom healthy, but she couldn't afford it.
Right.
No, ma'am, not in my house. So I took a stand, and we took a stand, and I said, money will no longer be that. Like, money's fun. It's a tool. Like, it's not meant to be loved. Like, it's just, let's have fun with it. Like, let's see who we can bless. Like, can I leave $100 tip down for that waitress that looks pregnant? Like, I mean, let's just let's have fun with it. And not be like, oh my gosh, I can't turn, like the electricity bill, or I got to buy toilet paper because I have a house full of 5 girls. Like, I mean, like, we have to be real here. Like, let me use it as a tool and make it fun and do that and have my kids do that. And there was definitely things that I wish I would have done earlier, but I lived in scarcity.
Right.
I didn't do it fast enough. I want to stop these families, like, when their kids are little, like, there was stuff we did right, but then there was stuff that I wish I would have done sooner with the scarcity mindset.
I appreciate you. I appreciate the conversation we had here today.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being our guest.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me, Casey.
Thank you.